Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by...
When Signs and Displays Direct was launched 15 years ago, it featured a complete line of banners and stands, product displays, and more. Today, the company is known as SDD and is the industry leader in turnkey, no-inventory POP programs. SDD has expanded into branding programs for both corporate and private label, as well as consulting services for retail showroom design and more. Visit sdd-us.com. That's sdd-us.com. All right, time once again for Music Night at the Majestic, and with us tonight, CARRiNGTON MacDuffie. CARRiNGTON, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So great to be here, Michael.
Well, I'll tell you, looking at your videos and having read about you, you are one very interesting person. Singer, songwriter, musician, poet, pilot, voice actor. I mean, the list goes, skeet shooter. It just goes on and on.
Well, I'm not actually a pilot, but that's something we could talk about. I haven't shot skeets, but I do work with handguns in target practice. We're here because I'm a singer-songwriter releasing records, and of course that's the linchpin of my existence. But I am interested in a lot of different things, and all those things inform my songwriting. Maybe not directly, but I find the world a fascinating place.
Absolutely. Now, my take in watching your videos and the things that you've done, you strike me as a free spirit type of individual.
I've heard that people have accused me of that, or maybe classified me that way, however you want to put it, kind of all my life. And I guess so. I mean, it's hard to know what you are sometimes when you're inside yourself and you just think you're just kind of you doing your life as you do it. But tell me what makes you say that. I've never really asked anyone that question, and I really would like to know.
Well, what struck me was reading about your background, where there's some people, I've said this on the show before, with other guests, there's some people in this world where they are very regimented on what they're going to do. They know that they're going to go to school, they're going to become an accountant, and that's what they are going to do. Mm-hmm. And you have people who know what they want, but kind of travel in the course that life takes them to get there. Mm-hmm. They live for the experience, and in doing so, get to see a lot of different things, do a lot of different things, and that's the type of person that you strike me as, based on what I know.
Well, that's very insightful. I didn't really ever think about it exactly that way, as far as we're here for the experience, but I certainly am. I'm here for the experience. Now I'm very focused. I work really hard. A lot of people think that I'm this really laid back, flexible person, which I am in so many ways, but I work my tail off, and I'm very clear about where I want to go and what I like and what I don't like. And so I have surprised some people, but I'm not regimented in the way that you were describing, where I have a set vision of how the future will unfold. That I feel like, no, I am riding the wave. It's kind of a Taoist philosophy, I suppose, that you're, I just try to stay on the crest of the, well, I don't really even try. I just stay on the crest of the wave. Wave is always breaking, right? You don't want to get tumbled, and you also don't want to get sucked back and left behind. So you want to stay perched kind of on that crest. Now, I've gotten tumbled plenty of times, sometimes pulled back, but mostly tumbled.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life. And that doesn't scare me. So I managed to balance. I managed to balance pretty well. And one of the keys, I think, for any of us is, this is a negative formulation, but it comes out positive. And that is that I think it's a really good idea to don't do anything you really don't want to do. I mean, there are things we have to do, and we do them because we have to. But anything that you don't have to do, that you don't want to do, don't do it. Because if you do things that you don't want to do, you'll wind up doing what you don't want to do, and your life will just kind of unfold that way. So that's one of the ways that I track my passage, is I just don't do the stuff that I don't want to do. I really focus on what brings me the greatest satisfaction, and on many levels, from hedonistic to spiritual. but I get out of situations very quickly that don't suit me.
That's the key.
Well, I definitely has worked for me as a way to, so I guess I'm a free spirit, but I'm really a focused free spirit.
And I think that's one of the things to where you've got two kinds of free spirits. You have those who, like yourself, focused, and I can relate to this, where you know what you want, but you'll ride that wave.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've also met people who are free spirits, but they have no focus, and they just kind of float around out there and with no direction.
Right.
And the wave just takes them where the wave takes them, but it's not necessarily where they truly want to go. Or if they had focus, where they would wind up.
Right. They might not be all that clear about where they want to go. And I've met a lot of people like that because of the way that I live my life. I meet a lot of people who are traveling and who are have less of a strict format to their lives. And so I do meet a lot of kind of undirected people who can be just really wonderfully charming and absolutely inspiring. And you can have wonderful momentary encounters with people like that. And then the people that I really bond with are the ones that I work with.
Absolutely.
People like you, where I'm having a conversation that we're really digging in, or, the musicians that I work with, the people that are on my team like that, they're the ones that I really wind up spending the most time with.
Right. Now tell me this. I'm going to guess that music probably played an important role in your life from a young age.
Absolutely. I don't think I didn't see it in really professional terms until my early 20s. Let me see, till I was about 20, I want to say. But absolutely, as a child, I mean, I loved singing, and I wrote little poems and rhymes, and very strictly metered rhymes. And because I do still have some of that stuff that I wrote. I was writing short stories in second grade, and I was singing. I loved singing always. I sang in choruses when I was quite young in school, and I played a couple brass instruments, cornet and French horn, and I was in the county band briefly. And then I started writing songs when I was maybe 13, and that got me through a stormy adolescence. I don't know if any adolescence is not stormy. Mine certainly was stormy, and music has been my go-to, my friend, my secret friend, my refuge, as well as my inspiration and my discipline. So even when I was really little, I think I could say some of those things about it. Because when I look back at the rhymes that I wrote, they are when I was like in first, second, third, fourth grade, they're very disciplined. So I think I was leaning into it pretty heavily all along, and deriving tremendous energy from it.
Tell me this, the music that you heard growing up, who were the people in your life that were the big music people who influenced you, and the artists that had the influence on you?
Right. Well, there's a range there. And one of the earliest influences that really struck me hard was Beethoven, because my dad listened to a lot of classical music and early jazz, and he also liked Hudson River folk and pop from the 60s. So, but the first thing that hit me hard, I think I was really, really little, was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was so powerful. And I think I knew from that how much music can move you. I mean, I was so moved in so many different directions. So I picked that up pretty quickly. I mean, I loved all the songs that I sang in nursery school and kindergarten, and, I loved singing, right? But from outside influence, that was the first thing that really walloped me. And also, I heard a lot of it was what my dad's was spinning, and he had a big record collection. So I heard a lot of stuff from the 60s because he loved listening to that. And the Beatles, of course, were huge, huge. I just couldn't stop singing along to that stuff. And so I've been very influenced by their song structure, of their songwriting. Let's see. Oh man, all that new wave of the 80s. I love the Cars, just knocked me out.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've skipped over music of the 70s. I wasn't because I was mostly a lot influenced by what my dad was spinning. I wasn't exposed to country music until much later. And I heard the country music of the 70s, and that was a whole new, that was an eye opener. Charlie Daniels and, Commander Cody. That was all brand new to me and really fun to hear because it was so catchy, really different from the jazz I'd listened to and the classical I'd listened to as a small child. Because my dad spun a lot of that hot early jazz, Teddy Wilson, and swing and stuff like that, which I loved as a really little, like, big enough to barely dance, right?
Uh-huh.
I remember cutting up the rug to that stuff. So,
What are some of the albums reflecting
okay.
back in that time
Man.
you remember your dad having out and playing?
Yes, okay. He had a record called, now you may be able to help me with this, or maybe someone who's listening to this interview can quickly check it online. There was a record he played that he just wore out called That Happy Feeling, which I loved. I loved it. And he listened to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass South of the Border. Those two records. I don't know who That Happy Feeling was. But
Yeah, off the top of my head, I have to admit, I can't think of it. Now, the Herb Alpert album, I'm more than familiar with that.
Yeah, it was that really upbeat pop, instrumental pop that was just such a, well, I think that record, whatever it was, That Happy Feeling, I'm going to covertly look it up, was, it was just such feel-good music. And for a very small child, I mean, I was like 2 or something, I just loved it. And then records, what sticks much later would be Thick as a Brick. I never owned it, but I remember hearing it and being really struck by the musical construction of that compared to, say, Charlie Daniels. I didn't own a lot of records. So let's see, what other albums did I have?
Now tell me this. You didn't own a lot, you say, but do you remember the first one that you bought?
Oh, God. I should know the answer to this. I'm going to have to do a little research on that and circle back to you because
no problem. Well, tell me this. Were you somebody who loved going to the record store and seeing all the artwork on the albums?
Yes. But I just didn't have a lot of money. So as far as what did I purchase, I don't remember. But again, circling back to my dad, what I remember is the records that he gave me. And he gave me a record called the New Vaudeville Band on Tour that was all this kind of vintage vaudeville style Brit thing.
Right.
It was like, and he gave me an Arlo Guthrie record, I remember.
Okay.
And I didn't even understand the lyrics. One was something like flying into Los Angeles, bringing in a couple of keys. I didn't know what a key was.
That's what gets you to the house, right?
I was just singing along. So those are some early records that I remember. And as far as I'd have to spend some time to think about because a lot of things came into my hands that I had a Led Zeppelin record. I have no idea where that came from. That came into my hands. I had a Simon and Garfunkel record. Now that my dad bought me that. He bought me Bridge Over Troubled Water. So you see, this is a really scattered answer to your question, but it's giving us sort of an idea, I hope.
Right. Well, one thing you mentioned, like the poetry that you wrote. your lyrics are very poetic, and it's on some of the songs. It almost feels like a stream of consciousness type of poetry that you have set to music.
Uh, well, that's a really interesting reflection. I just love getting feedback that gives me insights into my own work because, again, I'm in here. I have a lot of skill and very developed, but still, hearing something from the outside like that is interesting. So, stream of consciousness. Well, I will say that as a songwriter, I feel like I channel it more than I write it. That is, I remain really open and receptive. If something comes through and it sounds good to me, I start working on it, or start playing with it, I should say, because I play with it first. And then the conscious part of me that does the editing and is very, very skilled does the actual work on it. So stream of consciousness, I mean, my writing is very, very disciplined. I'm extremely aware of every single syllable and the placement of every syllable. And the rhyme schemes are fairly complex, and again, very disciplined. So I think the stream of consciousness is something that's the initial incoming, incoming.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to know more what you mean about that, and what stream of consciousness, when you say that, what does that mean to you as a form, as a writing form?
In listening to it, yeah, there's times where the speed of the lyric, whether it be the delivery or the number of syllables in the words that you choose, some of the songs, it's almost like a verbal roller coaster
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
with it. And the way that the words flow, it doesn't sound contrived, doesn't sound methodical. It sounds like it's just flowing, from the mind, out into the world.
Right. Yes, I see. Yes. Well, okay. So it has an organic feeling then.
Correct.
And a natural rhythm, and it's not forced. And yeah, and I think that comes from the fact that I really do receive, I really do receive the melody, the lyric, the chords I hear in my head often before I play them. So then what I do is I have to shape it a little if it doesn't fit exactly, but usually it just pops in, and then it might just need a little shaping, and maybe I change a word here or there to get the number of syllables to scan correctly, or maybe it comes out better because maybe I improve it, I want to say, by cutting a word out that's completely unnecessary if I just jump from this word to that word. We're talking just about lyric writing now. And I, as a poet, I open my mind to different ways of presenting an idea, different kinds of imagery. Because if you write a poem, if you don't get a little bit outlandish, no one's going to want to read it, right? And so from writing poetry, I've learned that, and it's the same with lyric writing. Now, something just popped into my mind the other day. This is a new song. I haven't even written the chorus yet. I don't even know exactly. I know what it's about, but I'm in that stage of letting it just come. And right now, it's just going. It's going. I got a buck knife in the glove box. That's the first line. So that just came to me. I got a buck knife in the glove box. Now, it so happens I do have a buck knife in my glove box that a cowboy gave me, and that comes very in handy. What's the rest of the song about? That line came in so clearly that all I can do when something is that pointed is follow it. Just follow it and see what comes behind that.
Well, tell me this, CARRiNGTON, when you write, does the I refer to it as the art and magic of songwriting. And I know a lot of times people have said, you know what, it was divine intervention, how the song came to be. Other folks have said, they'll hear a phrase or they'll read something and that will trigger, a line that's the springboard for the rest of the song.
Yes.
Now for you, you said you're very disciplined. Are you someone who says, okay, it's Tuesday, 9 a.m., I'm at my desk, I'm going to start writing my songs?
No.
Or is it a case of where when inspiration hits, you stop and you do it?
Yes, I'm disciplined that way, in that it's never worked for me to set aside a time and sit down, because I might not have any idea at that point. And so then I would start forcing it, and then it would suck. And I would set
It never works when you force it.
Yeah. So when I say discipline, I mean, yeah, a couple of things. One is that if an idea does come to me, doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I am, I will the commitment is always there, that I will make sure to make note of that idea. Even if I don't have time to follow it right then, I'll record it onto my iPhone, I'll jot it down, and then I'll return to it when it's time. And then the other aspect of discipline is having to do with the actual craft of songwriting, so song structure itself. And like we were talking about, does the lyric really scan well? Is it choppy? Is it smooth? If you want it to be choppy, that's okay, as long as it's rhythmically choppy. Really following my intention and making sure that that all those dimensions of songwriting match my intention. And I'm picky about harmonic structure as well. And I often, certainly when I'm in the studio with the fabulous musicians that I have the great pleasure of working with, I will often bow to their suggestions about harmonic structure, because I'm a songwriter first and a musician second. My main instrument is my voice, right? So they often will have good ideas, but and not to stray too far off of the question of discipline, I'll just also say that because I'm not as experienced on my instrument as the guys that I work with are, sometimes my chord ideas are really interesting to them and not the usual thing. I hear that a lot. And then we follow my lead on that. So there's a form of discipline there too, as far as like, what is the better choice to make? The discipline of what's the best thing for the song? The song, what's for the integrity of the song in its highest form, whatever that is. So my voice has to deal with that. The melody has to follow that. The harmonic structure has to follow that. The lyric, absolutely. All of that, has its own, I'm trying to think of another word besides discipline, because I've used it a lot. Now it sounds like we're in school, which,
Oh, no, not that.
God forbid. I mean, at least today's version of school, but life is a school, isn't it?
Absolutely. Tell me this: when you're writing, do you usually does your inspiration come first to lyrics or first to the music, or does it vary all the time?
It usually comes together, like maybe separated very briefly. Like one of the things I like to do is kick back in my chair, and I'm playing these days my little friend here. So I'll kick back, and I might even be watching something that I'm not watching, a movie or a nature show or something with good imagery, and the sound isn't all the way up, but it's enough to distract me so that I'm not over focusing. And an idea will come in that I'll be strumming. As soon as I hear that strum, something comes out of my mouth that goes with it, some phrase, and the phrase has a melody, or a melody, and if I just play with it a little bit, then words come into that melody and fill it. So, or sometimes I might be driving. I love to listen to music and sing when I'm driving, like some people like to sing in the shower. I don't really sing in the shower, but I do sing in the car. A lot of people sing in the car. It's one of our great pleasures. Why we'll never give up our cars, because we like to sing in them. Right? How many scenes in a movie have you seen of the person singing in their car and singing off key? Because it's such a sweet human thing that we do.
Right.
So I might be singing in the car and get an idea, bang, and I can't pick up an instrument right then, but I can quickly grab my phone and hit the record button and just sing it into the phone. And maybe that maybe that idea survives, and maybe it doesn't. But it tends to crop up. It tends to be the case that all crop up together within, a minute of each other. So I just follow that. I don't question it.
You don't want to question it, just
No,
accept it and keep moving.
That's right. And then after that, once I've had those initial ideas, that's the time when I pursue more consciously. But again, still, there's this tricky balance between pursuing consciously and receiving it, right? So I know I'm strumming along and going, well, maybe it should go here now, wah, 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 or whatever. But not to just follow the habit of where it's likely to go if it was something that I heard. And at the same time, not trying to be different, because, that'll really land you in hot water. The best thing you do is just be yourself.
It's got to be natural.
It's got to be natural. So I just kind of listen for, like, where does it want to go? Where does it want to go? I follow it. I don't want it to follow me. Don't do that. Don't follow me.
Well, yeah, we haven't got into it yet, but your voice acting. Now, for those who aren't familiar, you've won numerous awards for voice acting, doing audiobooks. You did the Joni Mitchell biography, correct?
Yes. There are several biographies of Joni Mitchell. I did one that's a series of interviews by a woman named Malcolm Marome, who interviewed her several times over, I think, a few decades, if I remember. And so it's a really interesting compilation. So I was doing her voice, like I had to speak for her.
When you're doing the voice acting, how much is your singing and your music side impact your reading of the books, to keep it kind of lyrical without being a turning it into a song, but adding a bit of that character that you need to have when performing a song?
Well, I think there's melody involved in storytelling in a very subtle way. And it's how we signal what melody and pacing which are both part of music, right? Are a big part of storytelling, and even nonfiction, which is kind of a form of storytelling as well. And that's how you foreshadow, and how you bring things to a close, and how you take a scene to a climax. That has to do with volume, melody, pacing, intensity, all of those things. And so those I use in singing for sure, and in songwriting, right? You want your climax, you want your point where it comes down and you get more quiet. All that dynamic range is so important to songs, to singing, songwriting, and to narration. Because one of the things that'll turn off a listener really quickly is if you, as you were already saying, use the same, I guess, I keep going back to melody, but use the same, way of speaking with every single sentence, the same inflection, the same points of if you bring every sentence down to the same point here, because I coach narration, and I tell my students, don't bring every sentence back to the same point here, because you will bore your listeners silly if you keep doing that. 3 sentences in, you've lost them, right? So you have to be aware of where you're going and where you're going to land and where that's going to take your listener. There's a journey in every single sentence. So that's a big part of it.
You're conveying a story, whether it's the audiobook or narration or singing a song.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that is true. Sometimes there's a difference between a story and a poem, right? I mean, some poems are more storytelling than others, and some are more abstract, more surreal, more imagistic. And I happen to love that kind of poetry, and that's more what I tend to write. So I'm just thinking of an example. My most recent album release was an EP that came out last April, May 2020, called I'm the One. And the title track, I'm the One, is a series of really kind of poetic images that each one tells its own little story, and none of them connects with the other exactly. So it's kind of like it's a fragmented autobiography. So it tells a story on one hand, but on the other hand, it's a deliberate collection of images, and so it's really in some ways more of a poem. I don't know how do you splice that? I'm not really sure.
I think it's called keeping options open and a foot in both camps,
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll buy that.
intentionally or otherwise.
Yeah. Right. That's just well, and that's the way that song came out, and that song came out really fast. I was just babbling that song out, and each little section of it. How does that song go? I can't be trusted. I can't be trusted. I once got busted. Those voices must be calling me. Right? Okay. Those are three totally separate things. Like they connect, but do they tell a story? I guess they do. And it goes on from there. I shouldn't ever try doing this because I'll promptly forget it in the middle of it. I can't remember how it goes. But if you go to my website, you can find that record, I'm the One, or on Spotify. The single is easily found, and it's got a really interesting lyric. A lot of people probably don't listen through to the whole thing, but there's a lot of information in there. It's kind of coded. I guess that's how I'd put it. It's coded. It's encoded.
Well, I think there's two ways that you can approach lyrics. Yeah, where it's a literal story, where you put everything out there for the listener, and you're simply telling a story, or you can do something that can be interpreted several different ways, or you have to try to read between the lines to figure out what it's about, and the listener becomes an active participant in the story, figuring out the story.
Yeah. Okay. I like the active participant part, and maybe that's the poet in me, where we couch things in a way that it's hidden, and at the same time it reveals more than it would if you said it in a straightforward way.
Right.
So that requires that the reader, in that case, in the case of poetry, has to participate further to find what the meaning is for him. And that then you're finding your own key, right? And you're going in and you're unlocking it and finding what's the treasure inside of there. And that is, I love that. Which is not to say, I mean, one of my favorite songs of all time is Fine Young Cannibals, She Drives Me Crazy. Now, there's no big secret there. It's just one of the greatest pop songs ever recorded, So I do love that too. Just what a great song. Is she really going out with him? Not a big mystery. Love that song. I love that stuff. I'm probably better at writing the stuff where you need to participate, but absolutely love something like either one of those two songs is just absolutely classic.
Tell me this, are you someone who keeps music on your phone to play in the car, or you've got playlists that you put together, for when you're out, or do you just, hit Spotify and put on shuffle and see what comes up?
I'm more apt to listen to playlists because a lot of time I'm listening. I don't listen as recreationally as probably most people do. That is to say, I listen specifically as a producer and a songwriter and a singer. So I just can't help it. So I have playlists that include songs that have inspired me with ideas for production, specifically production ideas. I have playlists that are specifically for what kind of drums are being played and what kind of drum patterns. Because to me, that's going into the studio, always I'm starting with drums. I'll always turn to the drummer first. And same with rehearsing and with a band, I turn right to the drummer. And then I have playlists that have song structure that make me really think. and playlists that I do have some more kind of just, there isn't really anything that's recreational because I'm drawn into it for so many reasons that comprise my art and my craft. So I mostly have playlists. I do like to listen to the radio just because I love the fact that radio, and this more has to do with, I just like the fact that it's literally going over the airwaves. That's just fantastic, isn't it? Because I'm fascinated by sound, the physics of sound, the acoustics, physics of sound. And the fact that it's traveling like that just kills me. So I like to listen to radio for that reason. But I mostly do listen to playlists, yeah.
Well, tell me this. You mentioned production, and that's one of the things that I really like about your songs is I like the production on it. Who are some of the producers that that you gravitate to, or whose work has influenced you?
Well, Brian Eno, of course. What great work he's done, and so broadly, because he's produced, I don't even know, we could do a quick check, but hasn't he produced U2, and all of the ambient music that he created is amazing. He's produced all kinds of artists, and of course Talking Heads. That was very amazing work that he did. Daniel Lanois, because he does that really vibey, he brings together that New Orleans feel, that second line, kind of irresistible rhythm with that swampy rhythm with this very more kind of modern but still analog vibey sound that I just love. And so my guys in Nashville, because I record with different people, and my guys in Nashville have really picked up on that, and they're really good at getting that sound. My guitarist there, Tim Galloway, he can play anything. He's a really great studio musician, and he probably owns 37 guitars at least, and he can play all of them like a wizard. But he has a couple of he has a reverb setting, and at least one, and I should ask him how many he has, and delay settings that are just CARRiNGTON. They're named after me. And he uses those a lot when we're in studio together. And there's a lot of delay and a lot of reverb that gets you that sound where you just feel enveloped in it.
It's very atmospheric.
Thank you. That's a great word for it. And this whole band really gets that. My keyboard player, who's also my music director there in Nashville, David Dorn, is also a wizard. And if you ever do check out that song, I'm the One, you'll hear there's an arpeggiated part that sounds like it's impossible that could be played, but that it must be being done, triggered electronically. He's playing that by hand. I have the video to prove it. And it's just amazing how fast it is. Anyway, he's also so good at finding sounds that just envelop you. But I've also asked them to do, we've also done, let's see, my most recent Christmas release was a EDM cover of Run Rudolph Run, and I recorded that with those guys as well, and it just rocks hard. It rocks, and Grady Saxman, who plays drums for me there, and Tim Denbo bass, and he can play keyboard, bass, fretless, whatever. I've got one song on this new record I have coming out that, in fact, it's Baby Played Me, the song that is bringing you and me together, where he tracked keyboard bass, fretless bass, and electric bass, and everything but acoustic. And we used all of them. And my mix engineer in upstate New York, who's just a firecracker, I love this guy, Sam Polizzi, managed to get all three bass lines into that song, and they're not in each other's way. That's how good these guys are. I just love recording with them.
Yeah, as I say,
if anything that you asked me, I don't know where we wound up.
Well, where we started, but actually, Eno and Lanois were the two producers that came to mind,
Yeah.
in listening, So, Baby Played Me. That's the video it's only been out for a short period of time.
Yes, that's right.
Tell us about that song.
Well, this is timely because the song really is an homage to musicianship in the form of a lovelorn ballad. That's how I think of it. I blend a lot of times I'll put things in the form of love songs because a love song cuts in so many different directions. There's so many different, you can do heartbreak, you can do happy love song. There's just so many dimensions to what we call love, romantic love. So I blended that together with the kind of thing that I just said, answering your last question about production. I love musicians. I just right away love them. The great musicians that I work with. I have a band in Glasgow as well, and I just love those Scots. They're so good. They rock so hard and they can play so gentle, so that the way that music transports us, like I was transported by that symphony, Beethoven symphony, when I was very, very small child. It's thanks to the composer, of course, but the musicians have to bring it alive, and they have to have the skill to bring it to life. And when they do that, it can move you. This is why Shakespeare says music music soothes the savage breast. It can calm you, it can excite you. It's just so powerful what music does. I think sound waves are the most powerful force that we deal with, stronger than light. And so when I work with musicians, I find myself just not unaccountably moved, but really moved. And it's so exciting to have your own compositions brought to life so brilliantly by people. So it's kind of like I just fall in love, and it's not really exactly a personal thing. It's hard to describe, but because your heart is moved and you're collaborating with these people and you're bonding with them and you speak this unspoken language. I mean, we don't talk a whole lot, we don't talk a lot. We just go straight to music, and then we speak to each other that way. And it's so, it's just sexy, it's really sexy. And then if you're on the road or if you're in the studio, at some point, you move on, right? You go to the next town, or you get off the tour and you're back home, or you leave the studio to go do whatever else you're going to do. And so you separate. And it always breaks my heart. And I don't it's not like a personal attachment. So I described that the very best way that I could in that song, Baby Played Me, that bonding and that separation. And then I turned it into a more personal sounding thing. That's just how it came to me. So it crosses, I should say, the lyric crosses. And I've done this in other songs as well. It's like you yourself become the instrument, right? And because your heart's open. And so Baby Played Me, one of the lines is, Baby played me like a little guitar. Those guys can just play me, and then walk out. Then we all walk out. It's just stunning. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then you better write a song about it, You better take refuge and write a song about it. So, and if I tried to explain it to them, they'd understand, but it's not really, really about them. But I put them in the video because they represent that spirit, and because seriously, they're unaccountably handsome. I don't know why such handsome guys come into my bands. It's just amazing. So I have to showcase that and put them. I like to showcase the musicians and show what they do, because I think it's so magical. They're magicians to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll tell you, on your records, it's very rare when you include a song that you didn't write. One of those songs was Hank Cochran's Why Can't He Be You, which people know from Patsy Cline being a very lush, lovelorn type tone to it.
Yes.
You took a different approach to that song. How did you come to decide to rock out on that one?
I was annoyed. Okay. I was just annoyed. And I've always loved that song. Who wrote, yeah, Hank Cochran, you just said, what a great songwriter. And I always really admired that song. The movement, the harmonic changes in the song. It's so good. I couldn't write that if you know, it would kill me if I could write that. I would be happy. I would just be ready to check out if I could write a song like that. But at the time I was annoyed, and I'd been listening to that song a lot, and I was annoyed with a person in particular. And so it just came out that way. I was, I had, at the time I was playing I had this wacky instrument that I really like. It's plastic. It's 4 strings, so it's ukulele, but it's made of plastic. It's larger than a ukulele. It's kind of an unusual thing. And it stands up on its end. And I was playing that a lot, and just, I was just annoyed. And so I just started singing it that way. And then the guy that I was recording with at the time, Scott Clark in Austin, Texas, I went to him and said, okay, I want to produce this way. And we got to do it this way. We got to rock it out. And he totally got it. So that song rarely gets referred to. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, well, my keen eye for the lesser known.
Yes, you do have a keen eye. You have a keen mind. You know, your questions are really, really great.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. I appreciate the compliment there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, another one of your videos that looks like you had a ton of fun making was Kiss Make Better.
Yes, right. I shot that in, let's see, over a period of 2 days in Los Angeles with a videographer there. I've shot a couple videos with him, because we also shot Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight, and I actually got him in front of the camera for that one because I needed a boyfriend figure. So we shot Kiss Make Better in several different kind of classic LA locations, Venice Beach and Hollywood Boulevard and some other places. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. Those days were long days. I pranced all over Los Angeles. But we had a lot of fun.
Well, good. Well, I'll tell you what, you mentioned the new record. Let's talk about the new record.
Yes. New record is called Sweet Little Mystery, based on a song that I released on Valentine's Day earlier this year, Sweet Little Mystery, which is a real schmooey, cooey love song. I guess you'd call it a love song. And the whole record is kind of schmooey. It's got some funk in it also. There's a couple of funkier songs. There's going to be one cover song on this record. It's an 8-song LP. And Baby Played Me is, I think, the 4th cut or so, somewhere in there. And that releases the 18th of June. So we will be dropping one more single before that releases called Under the Sky. I'm working on the video for that now. And then the record drops on the 18th of June. So we're very excited about that.
Tell me this, where, because each of your records seems to be a journey. Where has this one taken you since Kiss Make Better?
Well, it's been a journey indeed. Let's see. So since Kiss Make Better, I released another record, I'm the One, last year, that I recorded with the same guys, my Nashville guys. And then this new one, Sweet Little Mystery, I recorded 7 of the songs in Nashville and then one of the songs in Glasgow with my band there. And I think my songwriting has gotten more subtle and more, well, this is going to sound funny, but more subtle and more direct at the same time. People tell me my songwriting's getting better, so I'm going with that. I like hearing that. It's getting better all the time.
We all want to improve.
Yes, that's right. So the journey has been one of improvement, and also my band in Nashville. We've bonded more as we've made now 3 records together. The other thing that happened with the new record is I'm working with the mix engineer I mentioned, Sam Polizzi, in Rochester, New York. In fact, next month I'm going to be up there recording more with him. So we're releasing a record in June that he mixed, and he's brilliant. He just brings everything. I don't know how he does it. He just brings everything out so it's in its place, and it's just so multidimensional. And the mastering engineer that I've started working with, Brad Blackwood out of Memphis, Tennessee, does the same thing. I don't know how these guys do it. He just makes it huge. He just makes it so wonderfully big. So that's been part of the journey, is discovering those 2 guys. And I will be, as I said, up in Rochester next month recording another 6 songs that I'm really excited about. So the journey, what the journey is each step that I take puts me onto another step, you know, and just as you're completing it, you're already, the new thing is coming in. It just doesn't stop.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. And it's this, since Kiss Make Better, it's taught me to really rely on that more and not be at all anxious, and tune into it more and more. I guess just get more intimate with my own music.
Yeah. Tell me this, CARRiNGTON. Is there any plans or hopes to be able to go out and tour?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's all kinds of hopes that will happen. The world is going through its meltdown right now, and you know, it's turning into something that people don't have the remotest idea of how unrecognizable it will be, and how big these changes really are. And any notion of going back to normal, that's not ever going to happen. So I don't know what touring will look like or where it will be happening. Absolutely, I'll be playing live. I mean, I can't imagine not playing live. And people love live music. We all love it. Like I said, you know, the very vibrations change us. They enter us physically and change us. So we need live music. And that, I don't know where I'll be. I was doing a lot of touring in Europe and in the UK. I get a lot of radio airplay in the UK. So I of course have those guys in Scotland. So I hope to be touring there again, but I really don't know where you know, you go through the doors that open up, right? And we don't know yet, because things are still getting sorted out. A lot is still to be revealed in the next even couple months. I think we're going to be in a very different place in a couple months' time. And then we're just going to keep sorting things out. Just a lot's going to change. I'll just say that, beyond what you could possibly imagine. And so I'm not planning anything except to stay in process. That's all I got to do. Pay attention, stay in process, get some sleep.
There you go. Well, tell me this, CARRiNGTON. We've gone past our original intended time here. It's been great. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to make sure that we discuss during the show?
Well, I guess I would only say, you mentioned looking at my videos, and I so appreciate that, because I put a lot into that, and I do love that medium of music videos. And I want to just recommend anyone who's interested in what we've been talking about that they visit my YouTube channel, which is rife with all kinds of lyric videos, concept videos, behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff. There's also a video about Bitcoin, which is something I'm really interested in, specifically Bitcoin, not cryptocurrency in general, but specifically Bitcoin. So if you're interested in that, there's some stuff on my YouTube channel about that. And so I like to point people there. And then, of course, all my materials on Spotify. You can find, I think everything should be up there. The new record will be up there in June. I'm really excited about it. Looking to see if I have a mock-up of the cover. I know I had that somewhere. I try to keep things right close to hand, but then they disappear. The only thing I have close to hand always is this. You know, we could talk for another hour about so many things. I'm into target shooting, as you know, and training for small plane piloting. I'm into performance driving. I'm into Bitcoin. I love partner dance. You know, I swim laps. There's just so many things that I love to do If anyone's interested in, specifically, I'm involved right now a lot in target shooting and training with 9mm handguns. So anyone interested in that, contact me if you want to know more about that. You can get a hold of me via my website, Bitcoin, 9mm handguns, rock and roll, poetry.
Okay, I got to ask the performance driving part. Being a car guy, I got
Oh,
to
you
ask.
are?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
That's probably the only thing that rivals my passion for music.
oh, okay. Now we don't even have time for all this. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Well, anything with wheels and horsepower, I'm in.
All
2
right.
wheels, 4 wheels, either way, I'm good.
All right.
Now, how about
Well,
you?
I have limited experience, but I have trained a lot on the track. I'm really interested in what interests me about performance driving is the high speed combined with great skill, being able to manage that amount of speed and momentum with real skill and be completely grounded, feeling the engine in your back, feeling in your butt and in your back, the feeling of being strapped in, because you got to be strapped in with your helmet. I don't know why. Why does that feel so good? You tell me. You can feel the engine. You can, what is it? Not speed for speed's sake, but speed specifically combined with maneuvering.
To
And
me,
seeing
it's
what the car
mechanical
can do.
ballet.
Okay, that's a good way
Yeah.
to do it.
But
Mhm.
there's just something about, for me, where it invigorates. Yeah, the sound of a well-tuned V8 to me
Yes,
is music.
right.
Yeah.
Well, is
Uh,
that? And then there's the sound thing again. The
yeah,
vibrations just feel
right.
good, right?
But
Yeah.
when you can smell it, yeah, and because when you're doing that, it's every sense you have
Hmm.
is
Yes.
being utilized.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, and you have to think so much. Everything that goes into it is all about thinking, because you have to, if you're building it, you have to choose the right components that complement each other. But
Mhm.
you have to know what your objective is, because you can tune the suspension one way for one type of driving, but that won't work for something else. So
Mhm.
you have to build it for what your objective is. Whether it's a suspension or if it's your drivetrain, you got to make sure that the power band matches what you're trying to do. Is it something where you need torque? Do you need horsepower? Is it something where you need to have that mid-range power?
Mhm.
All of that goes into that, where
Mhm.
on the surface it looks like you just get in and you go fast, but there's so much more
Oh,
to it
yeah.
than
So much more to it than that. There's so much more under the hood, as you're describing, which I don't know that much about, but now you're getting me really interested. But there's so much more to driving than that. As you said, you're using all of your senses, and timing is huge. Timing is a huge part of it, right? Taking a curve
absolutely.
of the timing. So now, is there a track near where you are? There must be. Do I need to come there? Are you going to?
Well,
How do
actually,
you do?
actually, there is a Black Hawk, which is a road course not too far from here, and then there's also an automotive country club, if you will, not too far from here as well. So, but
Okay.
you've also got Gingerman Raceway. Then, if for those being road courses, we've got several drag strips if for just straight line
Yeah.
fun, but say
Yeah.
it all depends on what you're looking for.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, you got it going on there. Okay. Now I'm feeling tempted to I need to approach Chicago, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, it sounds
Yeah,
like something like songwriting.
there's a lot of similarities,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a
Correct.
creative process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. And the attention you bring to it, right?
exactly. Well, yeah, with like anything else in life, it's all about balance. You know, a good song, you need to have good music and good lyrics.
Yes.
If you're driving, it's not how fast you go fast, it's how fast you go slow on the road
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But you've got to have that balance so that when you're, hitting the apex, your entry is good and your exit is right as well.
Timing. So important.
Exactly.
I would love to spend more time. It's not an inexpensive thing to do. So it's something I would do more of. And of course, we haven't been able to do anything this last year and a half, but that will change. And that's something I definitely want to do more of. I love the focus that's required. I mean, it's a big responsibility to handle a vehicle at those speeds, and take those turns. And so the amount of focus required is just such a great, it's same as target shooting. You got to really be 100% present. Nothing else can mess with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll have to do another episode where we focus on shooting and driving, and we'll talk about the music that we listened to on the way to the track.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, on that note, we'll wrap this one up. Everyone, make sure you check out, as CARRiNGTON said, her YouTube channel, her website. We've had website, Facebook, and Instagram posted throughout the show. Go to all of those. We will also link to the videos that we discussed during the episode as well. And then in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for watching. CARRiNGTON, thank you for being with us.
Love it.
Everybody have a good night.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking.